bottom of 69b, the Korei Acharemos Va'ach Ba'asa. It says that the Kohen Gadol would read after the service. He would read from two parshas. The parsha of Acharemos, parsha of Acharei, which deals with the Yom Kippur service. It says after the death of Aaron, you shall not come into of Aaron's children. You shall not come into the Holy of Holies. Besides, if you do this service on the 10th day of and to bring atonement, and this is the service. So it goes through the service of Yom Kippur. So that's Acharei, and then just a couple of parshas later, Kedoshim Emor. In Emor, it has the 10th. It goes through the Chagim and all the various Yom Tovim, and there it says, but on the 10th day of the 7th month, which is 10th day of Tishrei, Yom Kippur, this is the service you shall do to come in for basically for the Karbanos of the day, and it's a day of atonement. So he will read both of those. Much further than that ahead in the Parsha of Pinchas, which those are both of those are in Vayikra, in Leviticus. In Bamidbar, Numbers, you now have in Pinchas all of the Musaf of every Yom Tov. That he doesn't read in the book. That he reads Baal Peh from memory. So for a minute, so we ask a contradiction. Medalgim b'navi medalgim b'torah. It says that you can jump around. We are 5-6 lines from the bottom of 69. So medalgim b'navi medalgim b'torah. You're allowed to jump around when reading. Skip when reading in the Navi. By the Haftorah, you can do that, but you can't do that in reading the Torah. So how come over here the Kohen Gadol reading on Yom Kippur is going to jump from one to another? There, here it's talking about that it's such a big break that you're going to have to roll the Torah so much that you will not be able to do it while the translator translates. And here you will be able to do while the translator translates. So a little bit about how they would read the Torah. They would read the Torah. Nowadays, we just have someone get up. There's a designated reader. Whether that person gets the aliyah or not is irrelevant. Somebody's prepared. And then it would just read. It used to be that every person that got the aliyah would read on their own. So everybody sort of knew the Torah enough that they could read on their own. A. And B, they would take a break after every bit of reading, and a translator would then translate in Aramaic. And then we'd go back to Hebrew. The reader would read, and then the translator would translate. Now, we don't do the translation because it doesn't translate to us, right? Aramaic is not going to help us. So we don't read the time of the translation, so we don't do that. Also, because not everybody knows how to read from the Torah. So even if somebody does know how to read from the Torah, the reader doesn't read. The only time we really give them the opportunity to do that is on Silchas Torah. If somebody would like to read their aliyah, go ahead, because everything's everything's different on Silchas Torah. You do the same reading over 100 times. Everybody gets aliyah. We don't have a set number of aliyahs. It's sort of the celebration of Torah. So everybody do it however works for you. But in general, we have the reader read, and the translator translate, and the person getting the aliyah is the reader, is the aliyah. It's all one. So in order to be able to move and from one to the next, you would have to do it. It'd have to be such a short break that it would be such a short break that you would have to be able to do it within the time that the translator translates. And so that's what's going on here. A short break where you're just going to roll the Torah once, it's the next column or 2 columns over. While the translator translates, you can roll the Torah that way, no problem. If you're doing it not while the translator translates, it's going to take a big roll, you can't do it. We actually do that on a fast day. On a fast day, the first aliyah is in one section, and then for the second and third aliyahs, we jump ahead 2 columns approximately, right? So that's fine, because in the time that the person, even though we don't have a translator, by the time the first ola says his bracha, and the next one says the bracha, you can turn that. So that's fine. And that's what's going on over here. The Gemara says that the reason why the Kohen Gadol could jump from Achari to Emor, because Achari and Emor are very close to each other, and he can do it while the translator will translate. The Gemara says that can't be a valid reason. Because the Brisa teaches about that, about this halacha, that in the Navi you're allowed to jump around, but in the Torah you may not. It says, and all this is talking about while the translator can translate. So even though we're talking about a really quick jump, a really short jump, nevertheless you can only do it in the Navi, not in the Torah. It says you could jump while reading the Torah, the Navi, but not while reading the Torah. And how much are you allowed to jump while reading the Navi? That there wouldn't be the translator would still be translating, but this, which indicates that in the Torah you can never jump, even if it's a quick, short jump while the reader is reading or translator is translating. Well, you can't jump from one subject matter to another, but you can, within the subject matter itself, jump from Yom Kippur subject to Yom Kippur subject. That's Tanya, and indeed we learned that way in that in the Torah you are allowed to jump if you are in one subject matter. The Navi, Shneim Yanim, Kan Mekan, in Navi, you could jump in 2 subject matters, but nevertheless, whether Torah or the Navi, whether it's one subject matter or 2, it can only be done It has to be done within that you can roll to the next section without within the time that the translator will translate. But you can't jump from one prophet to another. So you can jump within a prophet, within Isaiah, within Yechezkel, Ezekiel, within Yirmiyahu, Jeremiah. But you can't jump from Yechezkel back to Yirmiyahu or vice versa. However, in the book of Treyasar, which is the 12 small prophets, not the prophets are small, the book of prophets is small. Yes.
It's a profit sharing plan.
There were no Oompa prophets.
Oh.
So in the smaller books, which are combined into the book of the 12, and there you have Yonah, you have Hosea.
Use each other, you know?
Habakkuk, Micha, all of those prophets. On, we do have on Shabbos Shuvah, we do have that jump within the Navi, within 3 of the prophets of Trails. Now we're on Ayin Amid Alpha, the top 70, A at the top. But virtually, you can't jump backwards from a later prophet to an earlier prophet. Okay. Now, the girl of Sefer Torah, then he would roll up the Torah and he would read by heart the Musaf read on in the house. And then he would say, more than what I've read is for you, is in the Torah itself. And then he would read. Why do we say that? Not to, so that people not think, look, oh, the rest he's reading is not actually in the text of the Torah. No, he is. It's just that it's too far away to roll, so he's going to read it by heart. And so he has to let them know there's more here in the Torah. However, I'm not reading it all, and then he reads the next section. So the Gemara says, And in the 10th of the 7th month, which is in Bamidbar, which is in the Chumash of Pekudim, the Chumash of the numbers, that he would read by heart, which is Parshas Pinchas, as we mentioned. Amai, why does he have to read that by heart? Nignol, why didn't he roll two there? Because it's not respectful to the time of the community and the community's value that you're sitting there rolling a Torah into the right reading. You should do it beforehand. So the Gemara says, nicely, it's all because of the honor of the tzibur. So then the Gemara says, so why don't you take out a second Torah and read from a second Torah? So the Gemara says, it's going to make the first Torah look invalid. Oh, you took out another Torah because the first one must be missing something, so they read it second. Rish Lakish says, no, you're going to have to end the first reading, say the bracha at the end of the first reading, take out the next Torah, say the first bracha for the next reading, and then the end of bracha. So you're going to have two extra brachas, which are unnecessary, and we avoid unnecessary brachas. Are you worried about that? What about the teaching of Rabbi Tzvi Fischer, who said, the new month of Teves begins, the new moon of Teves is always in the midst of Hanukkah. If that happens on Shabbos, so you have to read for Hanukkah, you have to read, which is in Nasa, the beginning of the Midbar. You have to read for Rosh Chodesh, which is in Pinchas, towards the end of the Midbar. And you have to read the Parasha of the week, which is going to be in Bereshit. So, Mevi'in Sholosh Torahs. So you have to read 3 Sifrei Torah. So you take out 3 Torahs. B'Korin Achas Ben Yonishon. And one, you read the weekly reading, which is going to be Miketz, typically, the dreams of Paro, and there's taken out of there. It's a great story, but you have to read that. So that's in Bereshit, that's at the beginning. V'achas Rosh Chodesh, and when you're going to read the Musaf of Rosh Chodesh, which is the end of the Midbar. And then V'achas Chanukah, and when you're going to read the Chanukah, the Nasi of that day of the inauguration of the Mishkan, which is the beginning of the Midbar. So too much to roll, so you're going to have 3 Torahs. So you see that we're not concerned about the Torah looking invalid, extra bracha that's unnecessary. And where it says no. Of course, that's talking about different people getting aliyahs. So it's tlasa gavri, but tlasa sifri. 3 men getting aliyahs by 3 different sifrei Torah. That's fine, because each one is making their bracha in any case the beginning and the end, right? So there's no extra brachas. And we understand why we're taking out another Sefer Torah, because it's a different person getting the aliyah. But here the Kohen Gadol is reading the entire thing. Now it looks like, wait, he's going to make a break, and that's a new bracha, or he's changing Sefer Torah. That must be is something wrong with that Torah. So lekapagma, it doesn't look like the Torah is invalid. Chad Gabra, B'trei Sifri, but for one person's aliyah, meaning in this case the Kohen Gadol is the only one that gets aliyah, does all the reading right that day. For him, B'trei Safri and 2 Sifrei Torah, lekapagma, it's going to look like that first Sefer Torah is invalid. So therefore, he just says, whatever you can read from that and quickly roll is fine. And while the translator translates, the rest is going to read by heart, and he's going to say, there's more in the Torah here, this Torah is full, it's got all the words on the Torah, but I'm going to read a section by heart because that's too far for me. The Mishnah said, and then he's going to say 8 brachos at the end of the conclusion. We say 1 bracha when we conclude an aliyah. Baruch Hashem nosein haTorah, Asher nosa lanu Torah, Hashem is chayil nosein Baruch Hashem nosein haTorah. That's the bracha. When we end haftorah, we have several brachos. That's the way the Kohen Gadol would also have several brachos he would have at the end of the reading of Yom Kippur. So the Brisa taught, ala Torah. What's the bracha ala Torah? The way we read in the shul when we complete the aliyah. We're saying, Asher nasa lanu terasemes, v'chai olam nafta b'socheno, baruch atah Hashem nosei al right? Maybe there's a tune to it. Yeah. All right. Al ha'avoda, and then he would read the bracha al ha'avoda, which is the third to last bracha that we say in the Amidah always. We'd say Hashem Elokeinu Melech Yisrael, may it be your will to accept the nation of Israel. We add and bring us back to Yerushalayim. Then obviously that was not bring back to Yerushalayim. They were in Yerushalayim. So we say and accept the service that is done before you. And now bless you Hashem because for you, to you alone with all Israel. And thanksgiving, which is what we say right after it. Say we thank you Hashem. And then you would say a bracha on the forgiveness of the sin, which is we say in the Yom Kippur Amidah, forgive our sins on this day of Yom Kippur. And you know, there's a full paragraph of bracha on that. And then he would say a bracha about the Beis HaMikdash itself. By itself, and a bracha about the kahanim that Hashem accept them and their service. Va'al Yisrael and the blessing of Bnei Yisrael as well, each one separately. Va'al Shar Tefillah, and then that all Tefillah should be accepted. Tanur Rabban said the Brisa taught the Shar HaTefillah Rina Techina Bakasha L'Ferech Alam Yisrael Shetzrichim L'Yivashea. It's a song prayer and a request prayer and a beseeching prayer before you upon Yisrael, who are in need of salvation. And then it would conclude the bracha Baruch Atah Hashem Shomei Tefillah to say, you Hashem hear prayer. And then everybody would bring a Sefer Torah from their own house. Either Yerushalayim has a Eruv, or they brought it before Yom Kippur, but everybody would have a Sefer Torah, and they would read it. So there was this like mass reading of the Torah going on, even though that the reading of the day was done, but as a show of joy of reading from the Torah, so everybody would pull out their little Torah. I don't know if they had demons to hold on, so they're like, hold the Torah, and they'd be reading from it. To show the joy and the beauty of Torah, that everybody is joyous with it, and everybody wants their own connection with the Torah. So everybody would read the section open. They would show how nice it was, their Torah, how beautifully it was written. Now, Harayaka and Gadol, the Mishnah said, whoever was watching the Kohen Gadol could not watch the bull and goat being burnt on outside of the city, vice versa. So it's not because he may not, but because he could not. You could not see one or the other. So where it says Pshita, obviously, I mean, it said that it had to be outside of the three camps. How are you going to watch that while watching what's going on in the Temple Mount? If it has to be outside the three camps, means it has to be outside of Beis HaMikdash, outside the Temple Mount, outside of Yerushalayim. So, of course, you couldn't watch that and watch what's going on inside. Because I may have thought that you have to remain and watch what's in the Beis HaMikdash. You may not go to watch the Karban. You're not allowed to pass up an opportunity for mitzvah. And over here, you're in the opportunity of a mitzvah of watching the reading in the beauty of doing it in multitude. So there's a value in the mitzvah of participating, not just the reader, but those participating, and also is more beautiful because everybody that's there adds to the honor of the Torah with having, instead of 30,000 people there, you have 50,000 people there. Instead of 100,000 people there, you have 200,000 people there. So every person makes more honor to the Torah. My mitzvah, which mitzvah we're talking about, Barov Hadros Melech. with the multitude of nation comes the glory of the king. And so the Torah's honor and the mitzvah of honoring the Torah for just being there while the reader reads. Perhaps I shouldn't be allowed to go to watch the korban. Kamash Malan, that you're allowed to go, both are mitzvahs, and you can leave before the reading, go. I was going to say Kiddush Cup, but Yom Kippur. Kiddush Cup is pretty boring on Yom Kippur. So you can go watch the korban instead of being there for the reading. Okay, so we get to the next Mishnah, and this is really going to take us into murky, a little bit more confusing section. Because what we've had until now are the three korbanos that are done in the white garments of the Kohen Gadol, specifically known as the service of Yom Kippur, the bull that he leans on and atones his sins, and secondarily he will lean on and atone his sins of all the Kohanim, the two goats that are similar, and he puts the lottery on them, and one is going to be a sin offering for all of Bnei Israel. He's going to atone, save their sins, and the other one that goes out to the desert that's pushed off the cliff, the spritzing of the blood in the Holy of Holies, the bringing in before first the bringing in the incense, the spritzing of the blood inside the Kodesh HaKodashim, outside and facing the curtains on the Mizbeach. That's all the avodah of Yom Kippur, right? So that's the part done in the white garments, and it's depicted in the services that we do every Yom Kippur. But there's actually a lot more of Yom Kippur service, specific Yom Kippur, that is done with the golden garments. It's done out because it's not done on the inside of the Beis Hamikdash. It's done like all other korbanos in the courtyard on the large mizbeach. And we, in passing, mentioned the two rams, Elov Elaham, his ram and the ram of Bnei Israel. So, what is that? The Torah says, when it says, and he will come, he will bring a bull. It says, and he will bring a ram with it. And then it says, for Bnei Israel's atonement, they'll bring two goats. One goes out to Azazah, one Hashem, and a ram will come, be brought along with it. So we have his ram and the Bnei Israel's ram, Elo ve'ela. Then in Parshas Pinchas, it also mentions that there's going to be a Musaf korban. In Yom Kippur, the Musaf of Yom Kippur, which is, it says that there will be seven, it will be a bull, a ram, 7 lambs, and a goat. Okay, a bull, a ram, seven lambs, and a goat. So 10 animals are mentioned there, and when and how are those brought? So we now have 2 rams. We have the Musaf, which is a whole series of korbanos, and that hasn't been mentioned. These are all brought outside. It hasn't mentioned how to do it. Now, besides for that, well, we'll see what the verses say and how they say it. But that's really the next section, which is going to do with one of these done. So to review what we learned earlier, he starts off with the daily korbanos. Every day starts with the same service. Taking off the ash, putting it on the side of the altar. That's the beginning. Ending, sort of completing yesterday's korban. The every morning you have to bring a daily tamid, which is a lamb olav, every day. 2 are done, one in the morning to begin the service, one in the evening to end the service. So the Kohen Gadol will have to do that. We'd go inside and bring the incense and the ketores, set the candles, right, which were done in 5 and 2, right, which we saw machlokas of at what point what's done in between. Is the incense done in between? Is the spritzing of the blood of the morning korban done in between? All a month or 2 ago, right? We saw all that, So that's not in the golden garments. Step one. Step two, he would change out of the golden garments, and we saw for each one, he had to wash his hands and feet, go to the mikvah, wash his hands and feet, right? So there were two washings and one mikvah into the white garments. Then he would do, for that, he would do the Yom Kippur service, the bull and the two goats and the girdle and the incense and the Holy of Holies. Great. The pan of the incense is still in the Holy of Holies. It would come out. He would read. We already saw that he could read either in the white garments or switch out into his own personal kipple, his own white linens, right? And now he's going to switch back into the golden garments, do some of the service, some of the rest of the service. We'll see what that is. He's going to have to switch back into the white garments, which are going to take, again, hand washing, mikvah, hand washing. When I say hand washing, I mean hand and foot. Then he's going to go back into the Holy of Holies to take out the pan, come back out, hand washing, mikvah, hand washing, go into the golden garments and do the completion of the day, which is always the Talmud, the daily offering of the afternoon, and then it would be done. Which is, and then he would have to hand wash and change and go into his own personal garments. Great, but so we have 5 mikvahs, 10 hand washings, and all that switching back and forth. But what's done in the middle, and where this musaf is done, which is the 7 lambs, the bull, the ram, and the goat, it's not mentioned. So that's what this Mishnah and the next Gemara are going to do. In a big day butzker, so he had a choice. He could have read in the white linens that he was the white Kohen Gadol garments that he went into the Holy of Holies. So great. So he was still wearing that. So Kiddush Yom Tov, he would wash his hands and feet, remove his clothing. Yorad B'Tavol go into the mikvah. All of it, stop and come up and wipe and dry himself. Ve'hevi like big days off, and then they would bring him the golden garments. V'lavash, and he would wear them. Kiddush Yom Tov, and then sanctify his hands and feet again, which is hand washing with his foot. Because he would have to do that if he was still in a linen garment. If he had done it in his personal robe, he would have already hand washed to remove his linens, and so he would only go to the mikvah now and come out and put on the gold and hand wash. The yatzav asas eloi ve'es eloi. So the Mishnah now says he would go out and do his ram, which was the accompanying carbon to his bull, even though that's already done. But now is the time to do it because it was done on the outside, so it was done with his golden garments. And the Elah, the ram that accompanies the 2 goats, also already done. Now the Mishnah adds, Veshivas kavasim tamimim mineshana, and the 7 goats, 7 lambs that are part of the musaf, he would also do that. Divrei Rabbi Eliezer. That's Rabbi Eliezer's opinion. Rabbi Akiva Emer and Rabbi Akiva says no. They were done in the morning because a musaf is, the word musaf means an additional. Additional to what? Additional to the daily offering. The daily offering is a tamid, the morning carbon, and so it wouldn't be done now. The 7 lambs, which are part of the musaf, were not done now when he's changed into his golden garments now. It's when he first wore the golden garments in the morning, because this is an addendum, additional carbon to the morning carbon. So it was always done with the morning tamid. Upar, ha'olah, and the bull, which is an olah, also mentioned in the musaf. The soyer and the goat, hanasa b'chutz, which are done outside, because we had a goat already that's done, that is spritzed in the inside of the Beis HaMikdash. The one that's done on the outside, which is the one that comes along with the musaf, hayukrevim and Talmud Shabbat was brought with the evening tummy. Now the Gemara is going to ask, I'm not sure how to read this, because there are 2 ands there, right? It says the 7 lambs were brought in the morning, and the bull. That's one way to read it. And the goat that's done outside was done in the evening, or the 7 lambs were done in the morning with the morning tamid, and the bull and the goat, which are done on the outside, meaning the ones that are part of the musaf, were done in the evening together with the evening offering. So the Gemara is going to say two opinions on how to read Rabbi Akiva. But in any case, we now have the bull and the goat of Musaf. Let's go with that version. Done in the evening together with the evening offering. The 7 lambs done in the morning offering. And the Rabbi now together in the mid-golden section. Okay? The mid-golden. In the morning, the white, the golden, the white, the golden. So Rabbi Akiva says the Musaf is done part in the morning golden and part in the evening golden. Nothing in the middle. Just the 2 rams are done in the middle. Rabbi Eliezer says, no, the 7 lambs of the Musaf are also done in the middle section. In any case, after he does whatever he's supposed to be done in the middle golden section, Kiddush Yad Raga, we would sanctify his hands and feet again. When Pasha, the other Pasha, you get undressed, Yara the Tumble, you go down into the mikveh, all of it is stop and come up and dry himself with towel. Hivil, they love it, they would bring him his white garments again. The lavash, the Kiddush Yad Raga, he would wear them, put them on, and wash his hands and feet again. Nechnas la'etz hakaf. He would go into the Holy of Holies to take out the kaf, the pan, the bowl and the pan which he had to bring in the incense and the coals. That's all he did in the white garments the second time. Just went into the Holy of Holies to remove it. It's a very fascinating thing to think about, that there is a service of avodah, a special change to sanctify yourself for the service of avodah, which is not the offering itself, but the dignity and the clean and the care after, right? You know, with our kids, we used to sing clean up time, right? There's actually a whole avodah. There's a whole sanctification to go into the Holy of Holies just to create a moment of dignity, a moment of care, a moment of. We're usually so excited about the party, the act, the thing. And then in the end, it's anticlimactic. I don't want to say, I can't do it, right? There's a whole sanctification that goes on. And going to the mikveh and washing your hands and feet and putting on special white linens. In fact, we saw earlier in the Gemara, it wouldn't be the same ones from the morning, it would be a new set, new garments to go in, to remove the pants. A lot to learn, to think about. In any case. And then as a feet, back at the mikveh, come out, all of it happen, come out and dry himself, they would bring him his golden garments. But Lavash would wear them, Kiddush Yad Ragam, and sanctify his hands and feet. Now he would go in to do the end of the avodah of the day. Nichnas la'akti ketoris, it would bring the incense of the evening, shalmein arbaim of the evening, ulehetivas haneros, and to set the candles, which eventually he would light. Kiddush Yad Ragam. Then after he did the evening service, which also included the evening karbanos, Pashat Yad Ragam, and Kiddush Yad Ragam, he would sanctify his hands and feet again, wash them. Pashat Yad Ragam with the staff. All right, he would get undressed. He really big day outside. They bring him his own garments. A lavash, and now he can put on his own clothing. Very important thing Rav Hirsch teaches. He would sanctify his hands and feet, but he wasn't putting on holy garments anymore. He was putting on his own garments. Why? Why the sanctification when changing into your own garments? He says it's all nice and dandy to be in the Beis Hamikdash to do your service and to sanctify yourself. But if you can't sanctify yourself when you come home, on your way home, so that your home is the sanctuary, right? When he's about to get into his own personal garments and bring that shul home with you, right? Bring that Torah home with you into his own personal home. So then you've missed the purpose of Yom Kippur, right? You missed the whole idea of the Beis Hamikdash. Beis Hamikdash is not a place where you go and you leave God there. Right? It's a place that you go to connect, so that when you come home, you maintain it. So before he changes out of the garments of the holy garments into his personal garments, he also has to sanctify himself. That's an important lesson here. And then when he's in his personal garments, he's going to come home. And people would accompany him all the way home to his house. Yom Tov and he made a joyous celebration, a Yom Tov for his friends, because he came out in peace from the Holy of Holies. He did the service and survived. I mean, to be at such an elevated state, to maintain that elevation as you go forward, he has to he would make the celebration. So how do we read this statement that we said? Right, we said that the 7 lambs of Rabbi Akiva, according to Rabbi Akiva's opinion, the 7 lambs of the Musaf were done in the morning, but there were also 2 other parts of the Musaf, at least the bull and the goat, which he says for sure the goat, which is done on the outside, is done in the evening together with the evening garment. So the 3rd time he's wearing the golden garments. But what about the bull? How do you read this? The 7 lambs were done with the morning. And the bull and the lamb and the goat done with the evening. Or is this what he's saying? And together with the bull in the morning. And the goat is done in the evening, together with the evening the soup. That's question number 1. And furthermore, question number 2. What about the bull, according to Rabbi Eliezer? The Shaira, he didn't mention it. Right? He left that out. When would you do that one? Because Rabbi Eliezer just said that the 7 lambs were done together with the 2 rams in the middle golden garment. But, right? Great. So it's 2 rams and 7 lambs. But what about the bull and the goat? The bull and the goat that are also part of the Musaf, he didn't mention. Rabbi Akiva mentioned it. We're not sure if we know the goat he mentioned with the evening. We're not sure about the bull if it's in the morning or the evening. But Rabbi Eliezer didn't even mention it. So where's that? Vesu. And another, furthermore, question that's a lack of clarity. What about the parts of the bull sin offering, which in the last Mishnah we learned that before they took out the bull and the goat to burn outside of the camps, they would open the bull, take out the innards into a bowl, to be brought on the mizbeach later. That's what it said, right? They wouldn't bring it now; we bring it later. That's what the Gemara concluded. But when is that later? In the middle, together with the middle golden garment, or in the evening with the 3rd time he's wearing the golden garments? It doesn't mention it. Amar Rava. So Rava says, "Lemishkachas lemakanta." Ela Rabbi Eliezer, the Talmud Shmuel, Rabbi Akiva, the Talmud Shmuel. We don't have a proper order that's going to teach us all the answers to these questions, unless we either follow the Brisa that was taught in the academy of Shmuel, or the teaching of Rabbi, and that would explain Rabbi Eliezer, or the Brisa, the Tosefta that was taught in the academy of Shmuel, which teaches Rabbi Akiva. So either a Brisa or a Tosefta, both taught in the academy of Shmuel. That's our only key to how to learn this, because otherwise we don't have a Brisa that really gives us all the order. Great. So what is it? The Brisa taught. So the Brisa talks like this. Rabbi Eliezer says, Yatsa va'asa elav elav. So the first step is he would come out of the mikvah and he would do his ram, meaning the ram that came along with his bull, and the ram of the community, ve'emure chatas. And at that same time, he would also do the innards of the chatas, which was the bowl that had the bull's innards. They would go on the mizbeach. But the bull of the oila, which is a part of the musaf, the 7 lambs of the musaf, and the goat of the musaf, which is called the goat that's done outside, that would be done with the evening. So that's our mission, which is the Brisa, which is distinct from our Mishnah, because our Mishnah says that according to Rabbi Eliezer, the 7 lambs would be done in the middle, and here he says it's done in the evening. Rabbi Akiva the Tosefta Magi, and why do we have the teaching of Rabbi Akiva in the Tosefta? The Tanya we learn Rabbi Akiva says, Par ha'oila v'shivas kavasim. the bull, which is the Musaf, and the 7 lambs of the Musaf. All that was done in the morning. So our question was how to read Rabbi Akiva in our Mishnah. The bull was done in the morning. So in the first golden garments, together with everything that he did, he also did the morning Tamid. He also did a bull as a Musaf and 7 lambs as a Musaf. Shenamar, it says Movad Olas HaBoker Asher Lo Olas HaTamid. It says you will do this besides for the morning oila. So by the musaf, it says you will do it besides for the morning oila. Tells you that this is a part of the morning oila, right? A part of the daily tamid. Besides for that, you're going to do these musaf. So that must be done together with it because it's telling you it's done, as an aside to that. And only then would you change into the white garments and do the day. Now on 70b, and we're going to end with this. And after that, he would do the rams, which we mentioned, and the innards, which are mentioned, and then Sara Nasabachos, the goat, which is done on the outside, meaning the goat of the Musaf would be done in the evening. It says one goat as a sin offering. Besides for the sin offering of Yom Kippur. So that must be done in the evening. It can't be done in the morning because at the goat of the Musaf, it says this is going to be besides for the atonement goats. That has to have already happened. So we'll end with this for today. Tomorrow we're going to review Rabbi Akiva's Brisa and continue to analyze according to Rabbi Akiva and according to Rabbi Eliezer where they know this from, what the middle section and what the last section, what the golden sections, if you would. What are the golden garments? What were done? Where the Musaf fit in, and what was it?
Yashikoach.
So, Rabbi, how much longer do we have you? Did you tell me?
You don't